Okay, class, welcome to another session. Today we have Jeremy Goff joining us, and Jeremy is going to talk to us about his fandom and how he became a fan of Walt Disney World, and the company. Um, but he's also going to talk about some pretty cool projects he's been engaged in during quarantine when people can't get to the parks and people are looking for content surrounding the parks and about the Walt Disney Company. So, without me taking up too much more time, I want to introduce Jeremy. And, Jeremy, if you could kind of give us a background on how you became a fan of Disney um, and take us up to today in your fandom with Disney, with the parks, with the brand. And welcome.
Thank you for having me, Cody. It's great to be here with you guys. Yeah, so my fandom started because I live on planet Earth, and it's kind of hard to avoid that. I grew up in the '80s, and Disney was everywhere. You see it everywhere. You see it on TV, the movies. So it's ingrained in you in America anyway. Disney is just a thing that's always it's like a soft blanket for you. It's always there growing up. I never got to go to the parks as a kid. Like we couldn't afford to go, so that wasn't even something I missed because it to me it was like I can't go there. It's not. It's just some magical place where other people go. I finally got to go at the age of 18 with my parents. So that trip for me was a little strange because I was 18 with my parents. It was, you know, it was still great, but I was 18 with my parents. So it wasn't as magical as it maybe could have been if I had been 8 years old or something along those lines. So I didn't visit the parks again until I got married in 2010. My wife and I went on our honeymoon. So I had a big gap between my first and second trip. My wife had only been once. We went on our honeymoon and it was something for both of us just clicked. I'm like, this is our place. These are our people. This is our place. We have to come here every year. And we've been, aside from this year, at least once a year since 2010. So it's just something that we walk through the gates. We're like, this is our place. It makes us feel like kids again. They have the Disney bubble where you don't really worry about the outside world anymore. So it's total escapism for us. We get to go forget about work, forget about all the problems. We're there for a week or whatever it is, and then come home and start planning for the next week the following year.
Well, and thanks and welcome again, Jeremy. The You talk about kind of that escapism and what it means to go back to Disney and kind of feel like you're go back to your childhood. Um, I had not been to Disney in probably more than 20 years. 2012, I went back with my wife. Then we were dating, but I had a conference in Orlando, and she had not been to Walt Disney World, and so we had 2 days basically to play with. And so I was trying to figure out, where we could go, and we ended up we unbeknownst to me, we were there at the end of October, which I didn't know is a really, really good time crowd wise to be there. So in the 2 days we were there, we actually ended up going to all four parks. And I had never seen it like that. I had never seen the crowd level so low. So from then on, anytime we've planned, we've kind of tried to plan to go about that time, September, October, something like that. But I do remember on that trip in 2012, we uh, we took a bus from our hotel. We weren't on property from our hotel to Disney Springs the night before we were going to the parks. And driving through, we didn't drive underneath the big banner sign, but driving onto property at Disney Springs and seeing the signs on both sides of the road. I just remember it brought back emotions, brought back tears and everything. And so it makes me think, or I want to ask you, what is it about the memories your of being a Disney fan? What is it with those memories that causes people to want to go back? And you have a unique perspective in that you went at the age of 18, um, but yet when you still want to go back and it still reminds you of your childhood. So how does all that play into it, you think?
I, I don't know. It's it's some kind of Disney magic that makes you have these. And for me, it's like memories that never happened. But when I walk down Main Street, I feel like a little kid, and it's like I feel like I was here before. But I can't explain that part of it. It's pixie dust, I guess. I don't, I don't know what it is. It's just it's a feeling. It's it's everything. It's total sensory surround, the smells and the music and the sights. Everything comes together. It's just like a perfect little bubble for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, and I one thing that I really enjoy learning more about is their use of the senses. And they pipe the scents in, they pipe smell smells in for people, so that you do have this sense of home, if you will. I mean, that's a popular refrain on social media, is people saying we're going home, or it's 65 days until we're home, that type of thing.
Hmm.
um and also, the use of color that they have, where the company, the Imagineers, at one point had done their research and found like the most, I don't know how else to say it, bland color of green that people don't notice, and that's what they paint their show buildings with, that they don't want people to see. Like, all
Right.
of those intricacies are just so interesting.
Yeah. The
But
attention to detail is definitely second to none in
yeah,
the
I mean,
parks.
and it's just, in the parks, on property, um, just the attention to detail is so amazing. So when you go on a vacation, um, what is the typical vacation for you and your wife now when you go to Walt Disney World?
Uh, the typical vacation, obviously, we want to go as long as we can. So I think the last year we went, we really pushed it to 14 days. So it was 2 full weeks, nonstop, go, go, go. We, much like you, we always go September,
Mhm.
October. It's decorated for Halloween, which to me is the best time of year at Walt Disney World. And Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party is going on, which is my favorite event of the year. So we usually stay Pop Century because it's a value resort. We don't need I don't need to look out my window and see a giraffe for $1,000 a night. As cool as that would be, I'm sleeping into bed. I'm getting up. I'm going to the parks or whatever. So we save that money to buy souvenirs or do little extra experiences. For us, the resort, we love Pop Century. It's a bed. It's clean. Now it has the Skyliner, so it's even better.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and what I have yet to, when we went this last time, it was September 2019, and it was about 2, maybe 3 weeks before the Skyliners opened. How are the Skyliners, like as far as getting around, but also just kind of as an attraction in themselves?
So we were actually there when they opened.
Okay.
So we were on at Pop Century in the 60 building, which was right next to the Skyliner station. We got up at I don't even know, it was 5:30 or 6 in the morning. The day it opened, walked over, got on the Skyliner, like the sun was starting to rise. As an attraction, it's amazing. Like I would just go on this, but being an attraction and being a mode of transportation, it's phenomenal. You get views you don't see anywhere else in the park. Like flying over Caribbean Beach,
Mhm.
it's incredible. Like you just see things you've never seen before. I love it. Like we would always stay at a Skyliner resort if we could.
Well, and that's like, as a kid, I grew up an hour outside of Houston, Texas. And our entertainment was driving to the Houston airport and riding the monorail system around, because we thought that was so cool.
Right.
And then later in life, I found out that was actually, um, one of the few designed after the monorail. at Walt Disney or at Disneyland and Walt Disney World. The company had a subsidiary where they actually were trying to design and sell monorails for different cities as part of, kind of the as part of the vision for Epcot and the experimental city of tomorrow. Um, and so I'm really looking forward to the next time that we can go and safely go and ride the Skyliners to kind of see everything. Because it does look really, really fun.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's really nice. I mean, I could see if somebody had a fear of heights, maybe they wouldn't care for it because it's pretty much glass
Yeah.
all around you. But the views are incredible. Like we just rode it back and forth. We went on every line the day it opened. Like this is something right here.
Yeah. And one of the lines, the it does a 90-degree angle, which
Yeah.
just from an engineering perspective is pretty amazing
Yeah, it's
with
really
what they're
interesting
able to
watching
do.
the stations how the cars connect, and then they have handicap accessible ones where it'll pop off the main line and hold off, and then it'll jump right back into the line. It's quite amazing.
Yeah. So before we kind of transition to what you've been doing during quarantine, um, because I have listened to a few other podcasts you've been on, I know you're a big fan of the Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
Um, so what about, I guess, what first attracted you and what keeps you attracted to the Haunted Mansion?
I think the first thing that got me was the music. That it's such a simple little melody. It's probably like 12 notes total that plays throughout the entire attraction in some form or another, but it's different for the entire thing. It sets up the mood perfectly for every scene of the attraction. That's the first thing. And then obviously the visuals of it. I'm a big old school Disney guy. Even though
Mhm.
I never went, I love Disney history. So seeing that old school dark ride to me is like the ultimate Disney thing. So for me, with the little, I won't say scary because we know it's not scary, but I love horror movies as a kid. So that kind of tied in along with the music, and it's to me, it's just the perfect attraction for
Mhm.
Disney.
Well, and I feel like the way that they told that story when they were developing it, when they were developing the attraction in Disneyland, and because the attraction took so long to open, they had a really long time to tell the story. But before Walt Disney himself passed away, like kind of the way he would promote it, even doing press conferences where he was openly inviting ghosts who wanted to retire to come to Anaheim and live in this
Right.
house. Um, it just set up this rich story. And I can only imagine the people who would go to Disneyland and see the signs for this and see a little bit of update all along. And then it taking so long because I think it was 6 or 7 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about the 5 6 years, yeah,
Yeah,
of a building, just of a whole facade
yeah.
and nothing going on. Like, can
And
you imagine that today?
yeah, I know. I mean, people would,
It's like a day to day. People are like, "Oh, there's two new screws put onto the Tron coaster
yeah,
today." Like
yeah.
they would not sit for the whole thing sitting there. I'm like, "Oh, we don't know when it's opening."
Well, and I remember when the parks first closed down during the pandemic, people are like, "Oh, they're gonna fix the Yeti. Oh, when they open up,
Right?
Tron could be ready." Like, and
Yeah.
I was thinking like, well, it's not just something that is impacting the people who attend. It's also impacting the people who have to go and work and do these things. So I'm not
Right.
real sure. So yeah, you're right. If that happened today, we're so why isn't Tron ready? Why isn't this attraction
Yeah.
open when it hasn't even been announced yet? Like things like that.
It's such a
Um,
now society. Like we need it
yeah,
now.
yeah.
We're not waiting 5 years. That's
Well, and then, but I can only imagine that when they open that attraction, it's just this release of,
yeah.
okay, here were all my expectations, and people who have been to Disney and returned to Disney, um, I think a lot of people realize that your expectations are nothing compared to what you actually experience. So it, the I can understand your appeal to the attraction, with from the music and everything that goes on with it. Um, so I want to transition to what you have been doing during the pandemic, and we'll start with your music, because you've always been a musician, but you started
Yes.
doing something really fun and cathartic to many people during the pandemic. So tell us about what you were doing or what you are doing now.
Yeah. So it was right after the quarantine started. Everybody's stuck at home, nothing to do. I'm a lifelong musician. I've been playing guitar since I was probably 8 years old. So it's something it's just what I do, you know? I'm a musician. And there was one day I was sitting in my studio. I'm like, I never go on Facebook Live. I never stream live anything. It's not something I do. I'm like, you know what? Let me hook up my equipment, see what happens. I hooked up. My friends started joining on, and family on there. I was on there for just over 3 hours the first night. My everybody's like, "Oh my god, that was so amazing! Are you gonna do it again?" I'm like, "I suppose I could do it again." Next Friday, I did it again. It was 3 hours, and every show since then has been 3 hours. I set myself up here for for a 3 hour show. I don't know why. It just became a thing, and it's grown into something, like you said, cathartic for people. It's cathartic for me, you know. For even if I had two people watching, I
Yeah.
get to share what I do with another living person. I would be up here. I tell people this all the time. I'd be doing it myself for 3 hours, even if no one were watching. I do it anyway. That's what I do. I sit here and play guitar and sing, and now people watch it, and it means everything to me. It's gotten me through this year, basically. You know, it's like, I know no matter what happens in a week, I always have Friday. Fridays come, I got GoffStock. I got 3 hours to fly by the seat of my pants and try
Yeah.
to fill up 3 hours worth of material. But it's been great.
Well, and it has been it's been something that you said has been cathartic for you and gotten you through the year. Obviously, it's been something that's gotten a lot of people through the year. Just the kind of that connection with Disney, but also connection with other fans of Disney. You know, one thing that it seems like people are really missing right now is that one-on-one interaction.
Right.
And while yes, it's not the same that you're talking to someone over Zoom or you're watching someone perform over Facebook Live, it's not the same as, yeah, being in person or kind of being able to shake that person's hand. Although we'll see what happens to handshakes post pandemic. But
Yeah.
you know,
I don't think handshakes, fist bumps, nothing is allowed.
it's like you at least have some type of interaction, which I think a lot of people, um,
Yeah.
we're
Right.
really are missing. And so with with your music, you don't just play Disney, but you do a lot of Disney music, as
Yeah.
well. So what kind of Disney music do you play in GoffStock?
I I'll play park music. I play movie music. Anything that I happen to think of. I've done a couple of Disney only specials. Like not on Fridays. I've done a couple of Disney editions of GoffStock. So those are all Disney music, and it's, again, they're 3 hours. So I'm filling up whatever whatever Disney thing I can grab. It'd be a movie or a park thing. I'll do it.
Yeah. Um, and I know that, um, you collaborated on, like an original Disney song.
Semi originally.
Semi. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so Stan Solo, that you know, and I know if anybody knows him from the solo show, he came to me with an idea one day, and he's like, "Hey, I rewrote some lyrics for "Take Me Home, Country Roads," the John Denver song, which I had done the actual song on GoffStock a few times, and he turned it into a Disney song called "Take Me Back to Walt Disney World," and he had the basic idea, and I was like, "This is great." We went back and forth all day. We came up with the lyrics. I recorded pretty much a rough acoustic demo version of it, We both really liked it. I'm like, I'm just gonna make a quick video. It was just a static screen. I put the the lyrics going across the bottom, and it became somewhat viral. We had like 150,000 views within a month or something. It
Yeah.
had thousands and thousands of shares. I think it was like 25,000 shares or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hit right at the right time. People were missing Disney. It was a song about missing Disney, and it connected with people. And I play it most weeks on
Yeah.
GoffStock still.
Well, I know when because most weeks, if not every week, you at least have some segment of the show where people can make requests. I know that's always a request
That's the
for
whole
people.
show. Yeah, the whole show is if you got requests, put them up there.
Yeah, but it's real impressive that the song did as well as it did. It kind of reached that same the same kind of platform as all the people who were recreating the rides in their homes,
Right.
from
Yeah.
Haunted Mansion to Pirates of the Caribbean. A few weeks ago, we talked to someone who built a roller coaster on their property, themed after the Matterhorn bobsleds. And
wow.
and those types of projects that were going on during quarantine that are just really, really interesting. And again, kind of go back to that missing Disney and that wanting to be
Right.
back at Disney and remember those things and wanting to engage with other people. You also, about probably August, September ish, you started doing something else. You started using your talents to kind of add to your Disney fandom and allow people to kind of engage with your Disney fandom with you. What did you start doing then?
Yeah, so I always try to find a way for me to connect to Disney somehow, even if I can't be there, because that's what makes me happy. And trying to connect to it is me trying to stay happy. So I'm an artist as well. So actually, I'll show you. This isn't related to that, but this right here. If anybody's listening, you obviously can't see this, but this was my first Disney art project of quarantine. I built a life-size bat stanchion model. So that started me on the path where like I need to do some kind of Disney art, because it's much like the music. It's a different therapy for me to do. So I love Disney signage in the parks. I think that's one thing I love. I love seeing the work and the art that is put into every sign on Disney property. Nothing is just like no entry.
Mm-hmm.
It's all themed. And I love Disney signs. And I was like, I want a Sunshine Tree Terrace sign. They don't make it. So I made one for myself. I went online. That one I recreated digitally from the ground up. I cut it out of paper and foam, put it on my wall, showed it to people. They're like, oh my God, I need one of those. So it led me into just making tons of other signs in the same fashion, like photorealistic signs. It's been another thing that took off.
And so because I was going to ask about the stanchion behind you.
Yes.
It seemed to me that, hey, you're a fan of the Haunted Mansion, so you bought that at the parks, and I've never seen that being sold at the parks.
Right. So another thing where I was like, they don't make it, I'm gonna make it.
How did you make that?
It's oddly enough, so I'll tell you, the base here is a toilet paper or a paper towel dispenser.
Yeah.
So the rod goes up the middle. The main frame of this is a coat hanger.
Okay.
And then it's bulked out with tin foil. And then it's super sculpey clay, which is oven baked clay. And then the finish is it's called rub and buff with an antiquing. I did like a greenish wash over it. Yeah, that took me. I probably worked on it for like 3 weeks, I would say.
That is amazing.
That's another one of those projects where like I don't know if this is gonna work. The whole time I'm doing it, I'm bending. I'm like, how's a coat hanger gonna turn it? Because I had nothing to go by. I had photos of the real thing, and I'm like, all right, I got some clay and some tin foil, and we'll see what happens.
Wow, that is really good. That's really good. The few projects I've done, like for our Disney tree, I did one of my sons really likes the Seven Doors Mine Train. So I tried to do a Seven Doors Mine Train out of styrofoam,
Mm.
and to us it works. It is not like that. I am not. Your talent far
This is
surpasses what I'm able
this
to
is
do.
my Dreamfinder Funko Pop that I made. Has
And
a
that,
little figment in there.
yeah,
This was before quarantine.
I was going to ask about that as well, because the like I remember seeing you share that on social media, and Dreamfinder and Figment have always been Figment's always been my favorite part character.
Yep.
Dreamfinder along with him because of what they embody. So how were you able to do that?
This one was, it started off as this was a Mr. Monopoly,
Okay.
the guy with the monocle.
Yep.
It was a pop of him originally, and then with the same clay that I used on the bat, I sculpted the tiny little figment in there and repainted him, gave him a beard, made the packaging in Photoshop.
Yeah. That
I get
that's
very creative when I can't find things that I want. I'm like, I'm just going to make it then.
yeah, that's awesome. So, and these signs, getting back to the signs, they've become so popular,
Yeah,
um, that I know you have started to take, correct me if I'm wrong, you started to take orders for the signs, right? Originally it was
right.
only kind of by auction because of just kind of the demand of them.
Yeah, I was like, whatever I could make. That's because I didn't want to get into the spot where I have to fill these orders. I
Yeah,
like to have things done and then be able to, because
yeah,
things happen. Like equipment breaks down, I can't get supplies. I don't want to run into everything's back ordered.
yeah. Well, and the signs, if so, the signs are, they're one dimensional prints, right?
They're flat print. Yeah, they're flat prints
Flat print.
mounted on and then layered. So it's multiple layers of
Okay,
mounted paper.
because when I have seen pictures of them, and like I'll see a side picture and I'm like, in the front picture, it's I'm just thinking how amazing that is to be able to do
Yeah,
all of that. And then most recently, you started doing shadow boxes. And
right.
so, what got you to start doing that?
So the shadow box is something I've actually done. I haven't done it recently, but I used to do it years ago. For Christmas presents, I would find like my friend's favorite album cover, and I would do a 3D version of it in a shadow box. And I still had some of the frames left from those. And I'm like, you know what? I needed a break from making signs. Let me see if I can make some shadow boxes. And so that's where that came from.
Yeah, that's really cool too. And what are the? I mean, the shadow boxes they're of attractions, but
Yeah. So far, there are attraction scenes like the haunted mansion that you have for your background. That's one that I'm working on now. It'll be a layered three dimensional uh, shadow box of my favorite scenes. These are everything that I make are things that I would buy, but
yeah,
they don't make, so I make them for myself.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I see behind you, everybody who's watching sees all of the pops behind you.
Yes, this is the
Um,
wall.
that and it's very very impressive. And I see down by the stanchion the Jungle Cruise pop.
Yep.
Um, so, have you made other pops other than the Dreamfinder and Figment yet?
I have not yet. I have plans, but like everything, everything takes time, and other projects get started because I have plans to make other custom pops, but I just haven't sat down and done. I have what's considered an essential job, so I haven't been home,
Okay, yeah,
for a lot of the year. Like I had like a couple weeks off, and I'm just now getting to use my vacation time. So I've had a lot of span where I was still working
yeah.
and trying to get these projects in. So it'll
Well,
happen at some point.
and I mean, that was one thing that I wanted to see. How is it now? Because the music is something that people want. Um, they look forward to. It's something that they want to hear each week. Now, the signs. the shadow boxes. I mean, you are providing goods and service to people that is is getting some really really good demand. Um,
It is.
so, kind of how do you deal with that from like the the order and get everything ready perspective, but then also um, how do you deal with just knowing that hey, people really want these products, people want to listen to the music, they want all of this, like, because that's a really special thing, that's a really really cool thing.
Yeah, I have no idea anybody's ever going to want or a product or listen to my music. It's something, like I said, it's what I enjoy. So I'm going to put it out there. It could have just tanked and I would have been back to regular life. But the music part of it is something I've always done. I'll never stop. When I shared it, people connected with it. There's been weeks when I didn't want to do GoffStock. Like, you know what? It's not about me. It's about like this little community I made where people enjoy it. I get the thanks that I get during the shows. It's like, it means a lot to me. So for me to not give that back to the people, it's like, I can't not do that. So I never know when something's going to work, when it's not going to work. I tell people when I'm doing golf stock, I'm like, I'll try the song. I've never played it before. It might stink. We're gonna deal with that, and that's really tough for me because I'm a perfectionist. So for me to put out a product that's unfinished and I don't know how it's going to end, that's really tough. But I trust the people in my community to accept that part.
Yeah.
So it's a mutual respect between the both of us, Mike. I'll put out some stuff. Some of it's gonna be good. Some of it might stink, and I'm gonna be self-conscious about it. Don't be hard on me.
um well, and I've heard in talking with people, especially during the pandemic, I've heard a few people talk about kind of providing for the community and the community of that is Disney fans. What what do you think it is about that community that makes it so feel so close knit, even though obviously people are spread around the world now interacting almost solely on social media during these times, especially. Um, what do you think it is about the community that kind of makes that creates that connection for people?
I mean, it all goes back to the Disney magic. It's an intangible thing, but we all have that same goal. And when you find people that have the same passion as you do, there's a connection, no matter what it is. There's a connection with people. And for Disney, for some reason, it's even more so than with most other things. Like, oh, you like Disney? Oh, we're going to just talk all day. Like, it's
Yeah,
one of those, when you find a Disney fan, you just connect with that person instantly. Like, I don't even know you, but I like you already
yeah,
because you're into what I'm into.
yeah,
It's just that thing. It's the way humans interact. People love the same thing you do. All of a sudden, you love that person.
yeah. Well, and you have to. What I found is, and I do this as well. This is the reputation I have at school. Is when you talk to someone about Disney who really likes Disney, um, you either are okay clearing as long as needed to talk, or you have to set a hard deadline because a 15-minute conversation could easily turn into an hour and a half conversation if you're not careful because
Oh,
of the
absolutely.
just the many different paths you can
Yeah.
go down. So before we get to our last segment that I like to do with everybody, um, when you go to the parks, are you more the and earlier you said go go go, but are you more when you're in the parks, we need to see the ride, we need to go on the rides, we need to see the attractions, we need to see the shows, we need to do this and everything's planned out? Or are you more that let's take a step back, let's quote unquote stroll down Main Street and let's just kind of observe and see where the day takes us?
When my wife and I first started going, we were like scheduled. We're like, we got
Mhm.
all our fast passes, we got our dinner reservations. Now, when we go, because we've been, 10 times, whatever it is, when we go, we don't schedule much. We'll schedule a fast pass if it's a hard one to get, if it's a Pandora or whatever, one of those. we'll schedule that. We don't really schedule anything else.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing now for us, if we were to go, is the whole no park hopping, because we love park hopping. We love it. We'll go to Magic Kingdom, we'll go get something to eat, then we'll pop over to Epcot. So we really now just like to enjoy being there and not have a schedule, because you schedule things, it's in the back of your head all the time, and it's going to ruin your vacation. I helped my friend out a few years ago. He went for the first time with his family, two youngish kids. They were 11 and 8 or something at the time. They had a terrible time, the whole family, because he tried to schedule every minute, and one thing got off, and then it's a domino effect. And it's, I couldn't go that way anymore. Like, I just want to be there. We'll do whatever happens. If we don't go on a ride all day, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because we're just here.
Yeah. What other things have you been doing during quarantine that have kind of helped you stay attached to Disney?
YouTube is is everybody's Disney best friend. So I'll watch, ride videos. I'll watch people live streaming when they're there. Of course, WDW Radio is always there. So, making connections in the community there is a big thing for me, because it's that the community for WDW Radio for me is one of the most ideal Disney communities, because everybody's there. And when somebody comes in and tries to not be, I'll say, use the term Disney, it's like, well, no, that's not how we are here. Like, you're going to be nice to people, and you're going to accept us for who we are, or you're not going to be here. So that right there, to me, is to be totally accepted by community is the most important thing, and to have that to rely on during the craziness of the world today is super important.
Yeah. And one thing that I've noticed, speaking to that is very, very true about Disney fans, in that there's this feeling that people are more positive, or at least less negative, toward what people may consider an outsider. What I research and write about is group behavior, and I typically use the sports setting to do that. So that's like favorite team versus rival team, and how do those fans treat each other. But you take it outside of that, which we've started doing over the last few years, and it deals with political ideology, religious views, different brand associations. And so we actually compared fans of Disney and their feelings toward the Disney brand and the Universal brand, being the kind of major rival, if you will, in theme parks, with how sport fans feel toward their outgroup. And people within the Disney space were much more positive. And also, for me, kind of being a newer person to kind of sort of slowly get more engaged with the online communities, it's very, very nice to see the interactions that people have, and the positive interactions that people have, especially now when there are so many things going on that are not positive. To see the positive interactions where I'm used to somebody saying really, really mean things about their rival teams, and about people who cheer for their rival teams and everything.
Yeah.
So it's been a huge breath of fresh air to me, and is one reason why I love talking to people about it as well, and getting people's stories about it. So thank you for taking the time to talk about your fandom, talk about those quarantine projects, which, for reference, I think some people are lucky if they have one quarantine project, or a half, or maybe one and a half. You have 3 different quarantine projects that
I have too many. I got too many projects.
Well, and now, you said it with the GoffStock. Now hey, people are wanting this. So now you are.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, we need to lock the world down again. I got stuff to do, people.
I mean, your stuff is in high demand now with fans. It's awesome. So the last segment I like to do that I started doing during quarantine is just kind of a rapid fire section where you can, first thing off the top of your head, you can explain your answers if you want. You don't have to explain your answers if you want. So you've been to Walt Disney World, you've been to Disneyland. Have you been to any of the international parks?
Nope, never
Okay.
been out of the country.
So, I myself have never been to Disneyland. We were supposed to go in May to a conference, and then you know everything happened with being shut down.
Yes.
So between Disneyland and Walt Disney World, do you have a preference?
Walt Disney World,
Okay.
definitely. But Disneyland, it has a different feeling. It's such a special feeling. Like this is where like Walt spent
Yeah.
so much of his time. To have that is it's different. But if I had to choose, I would have to choose Walt Disney World just for the sheer size and
Yeah.
magnitude of things you can do there. There's so much. When you go to Anaheim, it's weird because you're like, here's the highway, here's some businesses. Disneyland, you can.
Yep. Yeah.
There's Galaxy's Edge on the highway. You can see it
Yeah.
going by. It's weird.
Well, and it is, I mean that's why Disney World or Walt Disney World was developed the way that it was, so you could
Yep.
have this bubble, and you literally can, if you fly in, you could, the stall only operated for a year or two, but now you fly into the international airport, you take the Disney bus to property, you're there for a week or two, and you never have to leave property.
Yeah.
And
We
you kind of,
rarely leave property when we're
yeah.
there. Like a couple times here and there, but for the most part, we're on property.
Yeah, I mean it is very, very special. And you said something that I often say when I'm talking about it, and countless other people have said about Disneyland. It has the heritage. It has, this is the park where Walt walked, or something to the effect of that. Like I've heard time and time and time again, and I say it all the time. What do you think it is about, go off track a little bit? What do you think it is, what attracts people to Walt Disney, even though he unfortunately hasn't been around for, or I should say, there are fewer and fewer people who were born or alive while he was alive. Like, what is it about that, you think?
I mean, he's the one he started all of it. You think of everything that came from what Walt Disney started, just from theme parks, but the movies, the TV shows, everything started with Walt. So to have any little connection to the man that started one of the biggest companies in the world, that, I mean, you can say what you want about businesses. It's a business at the end of the day, but it's still a pretty magical business. So to have any kind of connection to the person that started something like that, it's amazing, really. To think about all the things that have spawned from one little idea that he had. It just branched out into all these things. So it just didn't have any connection to the man that had that many ideas.
And he is so celebrated, unlike many other CEOs or founders of companies that, there are so many companies that people don't know who started that company. I think a lot of people, there definitely are people who don't know Walt Disney was an actual person.
Absolutely.
But there are a lot of people who know Walt Disney, Roy Disney, and kind of their story. One, because the company has done such a great job of telling that story. And as they get larger and larger, and more things are owned by Disney, I think there's more of a connection for people as well. But that was just an interesting side note, since you brought that up, and I hear that brought up all the time. So, all right, Disneyland and Walt Disney World, doesn't have to be exclusive. Do you have a favorite park or a favorite gate?
Magic Kingdom.
Magic Kingdom.
Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
All day, every day. It's our first stop when we get to Walt Disney World, and our last stop.
Yeah.
It's just something about, again, I know it's not the original, it's not the one Walt made, but it has that feeling, and it's just done so well. When you look down the street and you see Cinderella Castle, it's such a special moment, like on every trip for us. Which is conversely, when you go to Disneyland, you're like, wow, Sleeping Beauty Castle is pretty small. Like comparatively, to look down the street, you're expecting to be like, oh yeah, there's Sleeping Beauty Castle. No offense to the castle, but it pales in comparison to Cinderella.
It is that the Magic Kingdom's always my first stop or preferred first stop. This last time we went, my son was turning. He had his birthday in the Magic Kingdom, so we actually went to 2 other parks before the Magic Kingdom. Other than that, like it's always the first stop, and it is you turn that corner, and you see the castle, and it's just kind of that feeling of amazing,
Mm-hmm.
So favorite attraction that's a ride, any of the parks?
Favorite attraction that's a ride. So are you not counting Haunted Mansion? You're not counting dark rides?
No,
Or are you
no.
counting?
Anything. Okay. And maybe I don't, maybe I should say other than the Haunted Mansion. I don't know.
Well, Haunted Mansion for me is number 1. If you want to go number 2 for me, it's probably Pirates of the Caribbean, okay. Disneyland.
Yeah.
It's a totally different experience. I feel like we got robbed in Florida, but that's another story for another day. The Disneyland Pirates of the Caribbean is really close second for me.
Okay.
To the Haunted Mansion. It's so well done.
Okay.
And they keep doing really nice updates to it that don't really affect the ride, but they plus it as just little things like, oh, that's different, that's new.
Yeah. Do you have a preference between the Disneyland or Walt Disney World version of Haunted Mansion?
I would,
because they are very similar, I know, but
they're very similar. The exterior, I prefer Walt Disney World.
Okay.
The interior, I would pick Disneyland solely on the fact that they have Hatbox Ghost.
Yeah.
And we do not. So
yeah.
There's a lot of similarities throughout the two. Aside from that, like the stretching room obviously operates differently, but looks the same. So,
which the stretching room is one of the most interesting stories to me of the Disneyland version. And so what does the stretching room at the Disneyland version do for people who don't know?
So it's actually an elevator. So the room is moving. When you're in Florida, it's not. You're getting off on the same floor. They needed to get around. I believe it was the train tracks. So they had to make an elevator to move you into another room. So when the room is stretching, it's actually the room is moving.
Yeah.
Your floor is moving, not just the ceiling like in Disney World.
So favorite show on anywhere on any of the parks or on properties?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Favorite show. I'll tell you, the first thing that popped into my mind, we did a Disney cruise for the very first time last year on the Disney Dream. The Beauty and the Beast production that they have on that ship is amazing. Let alone you're on a ship. If I saw this anywhere, I would be like, that's incredible. The fact that you're on this moving vessel and they can put together a production like that is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they shared some of those on social media during the during quarantine and everything, which was pretty awesome. So I think you said you typically stay at Pop Century. Is that your favorite? Would you say that's your favorite resort, or do you have another favorite resort on property?
Well, no, my favorite resort is probably Wilderness Lodge.
Okay.
We've never stayed there because it's cost prohibitive for us, but we always visit it and just walk around. It's amazing to walk around that lobby.
Yeah.
It's something else.
Okay, favorite restaurant on any Disneyland, Walt Disney World, that includes Downtown Disney, Disney Springs. Do you have a favorite restaurant?
That's a tough one. The Old Flying Fish was amazing. Okay. I don't even know what the status of that restaurant was. Okay. But that was one of our tops, was Flying Fish.
And then I typically, when I go to the parks, I usually almost eat my weight in treats. Do you have a favorite treat in the parks?
It would be the citrus swirl,
Okay.
not the Dole Whip like so many people choose.
You know, this last time we went was the first time I had a Dole Whip. It's a little embarrassing to admit that, but
Yeah.
it I had I think 4 or 5 before I left. So they're pretty addicting. Last thing, and this could be within the parks, movies, any of the acquisitions, favorite Disney character.
I mean, offhand, I always say it's Mickey,
Okay.
but there's two particular Mickeys that I particularly like is Steamboat Willie for being the original and Sorcerer Mickey
Okay.
from Fantasia.
Okay.
So that's my favorite.
And were you two able to go on the new Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway?
We were not. We were there in December, I think, right. Oh no, that opened. I'm trying something. We were not able to go on
Okay.
that or on the Rise of the Resistance, which had opened the weekend we were there,
Yeah.
but we weren't able to go to Hollywood Studios. So yeah,
Yeah.
neither of those.
And both, I don't know if I couldn't help but I've watched videos of both. They both look fantastic. And I'm fully aware that
I
it is not the experience, but I'm also aware that the experience watching it on YouTube and the experience
yes.
you have is it's
We
not
refrained
what
for
you think.
many months of watching any videos of either of them, thinking we're going to see them in person for the first time. And then when quarantine happened, we made it a couple months. I'm like, you know what? We're going to treat ourselves
Yeah.
and watch some YouTube videos. So I have watched them since.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's totally different in person.
Well, thanks for doing this. Thanks for talking with us. It's always great to hear people's stories, how they connect with Disney. It's been really, really fascinating to hear about what you've been doing, especially during quarantine, to stay connected and how you created connection for other people. And that's something really, really special, to be able to create that for other people to enjoy as well. So thank you for joining us. Anybody who is watching or listening, want to contact you or engage with you on social media, how would they do it?
If you want to check out GoffStock, you can go to facebook.com/GoffStockMusic. And you can get to me through there for pretty much anything. So that'd be my first place to send people.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. And I really appreciate it. And thanks. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.